As I've said before, I think Iraq is a battleground in a broader war against Islamic fascism. But in Iraq, we went in, had tremendous initial success, and we're not prepared for the shape that success took. The world is safer today with Saddam Hussein in the ground than in his palace. And we are safer today. The Middle East is safer today. We did not adapt to the counterinsurgency. It took us 3.5, 4 years to adapt to the changing situation on the ground. That's far too long, far too costly, and cost far too many American lives, far too many Iraqi lives. About a year ago, General Petraeus proposed a surge in American troops. In fact, Senator McCain was the first to call for an increase in American troops. But beyond the additional 20,000 troops in Baghdad, the surge also gave local commanders the flexibility they needed to address the situation on the ground, to get the Iraqis on our side fighting the militias. We've had tremendous success from that, and we should not give it up. The threat in Iraq now has changed. It's still Al-Qaeda in Iraq to some extent, but it is largely the Shiite militias fueled by Iran. And if you saw what happened in Basra a couple of weeks ago, right up until last week, Tada al-Sadr, who was an Iranian puppet, brought his guys out to attack Iraqis and American forces. And for the first time, the Iraqi military led the fight against them with tremendous American support, that the Iraqi military stood up and defended itself against these Iranian-backed militias. This was a good thing, and they had tremendous success in driving them back underground and forcing al-Sadr to call another ceasefire and hide back underground. We need to let Iraq defend itself before we can leave. We need to let them defend their borders against Iran on one side and Syria on another before we leave. If we don't, we're going to have to be back, and the situation's going to be worse. Those are the stakes, and we need to do that.
Thank you very much. Next question. New Hampshire is facing a demographic downturn in high school graduates, and our public university costs are the highest in the nation. We here at the university level are trying to hold the costs down, but how do you envision assisting students to attend New Hampshire's universities and colleges? Mr. Steiner.
Thank you. Actually, this is a question that when I first looked at it, I thought somebody went to my website and decided to throw me a softball. So I'm going to refer you to my website as well. Again, if you look at joingym2008.com and you click on the issues page and you go to the last issue, you see it's a call for national public service. And in terms of New Hampshire demographic downturn and high school graduates and cost of college education, the model that I suggest as a member of Congress is a national model that affects New Hampshire students equally as it will affect students from all across the country. And that is that we more than triple the size of our AmeriCorps programs, our city year programs, our desert restoration programs, much like nobody in this room is old enough to remember the Civilian Conservation Corps in the immediate pre-World War II era. But if you hike the trails here in the White Mountains, you still see those CCC plaques and everything they accomplished, so that the New Hampshire tourism industry has had 50 years of being able to benefit from that kind of program. What I advocate is that we increase the size of our AmeriCorps. We give you young people who are out here, whether you have just come out of high school or perhaps you're in the middle of college and want to take a break, or immediately upon earning your degree, you give us a couple years somewhere in this country, and we in turn will provide to you a GI Bill-like benefit, much like our military soldiers earn. You're going to be able to either continue with grad school, or for those that are just coming out of high school who are enrolled in this kind of program, they're going to be able to have the funding to be able to make college much more affordable. In the meantime, in January of 2009, when I get sworn in as the congressman from the 2nd District of New Hampshire, I will use the bully pulpit of being in Congress before this GI Bill type of benefit can be extended to AmeriCorps and an increased AmeriCorps. By the way, AmeriCorps right now has 75,000 members nationwide. I am talking about an AmeriCorps that would be in the 300,000, 500,000 range. It would be the same size as our active military. And in the meantime, before we get GI Bill benefits passed to benefit these young people, who very economically provide us projects that are very worthwhile across the country, I will be pushing for tuition deferments because those colleges and universities, 99.9%, who receive some sort of federal funding, are going to need to listen when Congress says, we need you to recognize the kind of service provided by these young people through tuition deferments until we can pass that kind of law. So in terms of what I would do, that is the plan that I would follow. And let me give you a little bit of a personal story. My stepson graduated from Concord High this past year. He is part of AmeriCorps right now. He's in Southern California. He's doing desert restoration work. He's earning the kind of tuition benefits that they provide right now, which are not enough. My idea for national public service goes back to my military service, because you learn teamwork. You learn something about being an American citizen when you are thrown in with people from all different walks of life and from all over the country. My son's roommate is from Birmingham, Alabama. There's not another young person from New England on his crew. He's learning in what I call our unarmed forces the kind of camaraderie and esprit de corps that you learn in the military. And I think the country and Congress needs to vote to provide the same kind of benefits so that we bring some very interesting students back here to Plymouth State. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Miller.
Thank you. I don't think the federal government should have a broader role in higher education. I know it's probably not the most popular answer to give on a college campus, but I'm not trying to buy your vote with promises of Congress showing up with a big check to help you pay your tuition. I think our federal government is far too involved in our primary and secondary schools. We've got existing programs, Pell Grants, Stafford loans, Perkins loans, and we've seen a lot of what those programs do is just drive tuition ever higher, because the college is going to take federal money and then they're going to charge whatever you and your parents can pay anyway. College tuition is expensive for two reasons. First of all, it's worth it. If you look at future earnings of graduating from college versus not graduating from college, almost any level of debt is eventually worth it. That doesn't make it easy as you try to enter the workforce. And believe me, my first job after graduating with a little bit of debt from Dartmouth College was making $5.15 an hour working midnight to 8 at a radio station in Manchester. I know it's very tough as a recent college graduate to enter particularly this job market with our economy where it is, but I don't want to see Congress try to solve that problem, because I think Congress is going to make it worse. We are facing demographic challenges, especially in rural New Hampshire. Communities here are having a very hard time attracting a working age population. We've got kids in schools, we've got people coming here to retire, but we're having a harder time attracting people to come to these communities, Coos County, Grafton County, to work and raise families and start businesses. I could tell you that Congress is going to solve that problem, but I'd be lying to you. And that our economy, we're going to have to grow on our own, and we can't look to Washington to help. And I'm not going to promise you to fix that problem and just get elected.
Like Mr. Steiner, I was very happy to see this question on the list as well. I had 5 college funds underway as we speak. I'm the mother of 5 children, all of whom, one of whom is currently in college, 4 more of whom are going to be coming up behind her pretty soon. And I'm very much aware of the challenges that families face trying to provide an education for their children, trying to save for that education. No matter how early we start, it seems as if we get there and the cost has risen so high that it's beyond our means regardless. I would hesitate to endorse programs that involve a lot of additional federal funds, more money coming out of government. Unfortunately, that means more money coming out of our pockets. However, I disagree that there's nothing that the government can do. Certainly, the first step is that we can create greater access to certain grants and scholarships. Secondly, and more importantly, what goes to the heart, we must get to the heart of why is education so expensive. Costs are rising astronomically, but the cost of business is rising across the board. It is the economy that pushes the cost of college education. What the government can do to help bring down the cost of college that will directly impact every one of you in this room trying to pay your way is that it can get the